Hi there everyone, it's Russell. Welcome to the Reading Fabricator, and today I'm going to talk about a very short book. Basically, it is 2 acts broken down into a short story and a novella. And they present The Shawl by Cynthia Ozick. Now, I knew nothing about Ozick until a few years ago when I was doing a bunch of research on recommendations by David Foster Wallace, authors that he admired, books that he liked. One in particular that he talks about a lot is Wittgenstein's Mistress, which I have, but I've not read. I'll get around to it. He talks a lot about Don DeLillo, about particularly Blood Meridian and Suttree from Cormac McCarthy. Those two I have read. But one author that stuck out the most for me was Cynthia Ozick, who I'd never heard of before in my life. And she seems to have gone almost undergrounds of sorts in terms of appreciation. She's more of a writer's writer. People like lots of authors look to her as an influence, but not many people out there have actually read her. Another author that comes to mind when it comes to that would probably be William Gaddis. A lot of authors look to him as an influence, but not many people have actually read his work. This book here, The Shawl, is her most well-read work, and it's still quite lowly rated on Goodreads. So I picked it up. I found it in the local bookshop, and which really surprised me. And given how short it is, it's like 70 pages long. I read it in one sitting, and it's everything people say it is. It is a heartbreaking look at the effects of the Holocaust years after it happened. Now, the first act depicts the main character, Rosa. I think she's in her early 20s at this point. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. And she's holding a little baby in a shawl, baby by the name of Magda. And they're being marched towards a concentration camp. They're walking slowly towards a concentration camp, along with her niece Stella, who I think is 14 or so years old at this point. And there's lots of talk about how malnourished they are, how basically her breasts have just stopped producing milk because she's so just absolutely malnourished. She's skinny. She just cannot provide for this child, and this child is just curled up in this shawl in her arms. They're walking through this bleak winter, getting to the concentration camp, and she's going on and on about how this child will not survive. It just will not. And then something happens. And this story here, this is the short story preluding to the novella. It's about 10 pages long, so quite short. Something happens, something truly terrible, and I'm not going to say what it is, because I think it will ruin the impact of those who want to go ahead and read this sort of thing. So I'm going to leave it at that. A lot of the short story depicts, this child basically just sucking on the shawl, trying to get some sort of just milky substance out of it, or anything out of it, due to not being able to be properly breastfed. And I'm not going to say how the story ends, but needless to say, it involves the child Magda, and it involves Rosa just breaking down and putting the shawl in her own mouth, sucking on it. It's quite a dreadful, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean dreadful, as in heartbreaking, quite kind of ending. The novella, which is simply titled Rosa, depicts her life in, I think it's Florida. Many years later, I think she's 60 now or something like that. And at first, I thought she seemed okay, but as the novella goes on, certain things start revealing themselves, and you just realize that this woman has had a bit of a mental breakdown, that she's no longer herself, that she has not been able to continue her life because she's been living so much in the past in terms of her mind. She just cannot outgrow what happened to her during that time period in World War II. She had a store recently in, I think, New York City, but she took an axe one day and just smashed it to pieces. It was in the newspapers, and then her niece decided to send her down to Florida just to relax, just to get some help, just almost like a rehabilitation type thing, but more just to help her be at peace of mind. And Rosa becomes an absolute shut-in. She just doesn't ever like to leave her room. She likes having things the way they are. But then one day she goes to the laundromat to get some stuff done, and she meets this very interesting fellow, a person by the name of Simon Persky, who happens to be from where she's from. She's originally from Warsaw, pretty much. Her family comes from Poland. And he pretty much spends the rest of the day just trying to get her out of her shell, just trying to get her to talk. He is someone that has left it all behind and has been able to live a full life. And he comes to the realization quite quickly that she has not been able to do the same, and he wants to be able to make a connection with her. And what follows for the or most of the story is just him being alongside her, just trying to get her to talk more about her experiences and living in America and how America's land of opportunities. They end up at a tea house at one point. And then they just go their separate ways, and Rosa goes back to her room and she receives mail, which turns out to be a shawl. And she receives letters of correspondence from Stella, who's basically just telling her just to please stop living in the past, please get over it. Really, really heartbreaking stuff. And it was at this point in the novella that I realized that things were actually wrong, that Rosa was not all right, that she had pretty much had mental deterioration, that she wasn't doing too well. At least that's how it was perceived in my mind. I could be wrong about this. I'm not sure. If you had a different experience to reading this, let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. She does meet up with him again because she accuses him of taking his the underwear, and she has this huge outburst at a hotel. But basically, it is a story of someone who's just, well, the Holocaust, the World War II just broke them down, and they were not able to recover. And it shows the deterioration over years, and how over many decades, just an event such as this could just keep someone from living their full life to their full potential. Really, it's about just the emptiness of the aftermath of everything that's been going on. A lot of trauma, pretty much. A lot of trauma going on in this thing. And who could blame them? But for a 70-page book, it does pack a wallop. There's a lot going on in this thing. Personally, it wasn't my favorite thing, but as a 70-page book, it's crisp. It gets through to things, and it provides you with another writing talent that goes unforeseen. And by that I mean Cynthia Ozick is a fantastic writer. She has a great way of words. So I think she deserves more attention. She is definitely an underground writer. Very, very well articulated in her words. There's some great passages in this book as well, particularly in the opening 10 pages of The Shawl, which I'll read to you now. So this is the very opening paragraph of the short story, The Shawl. Stella, cold, cold, the coldness of hell. How they walked on the roads together, Rosa with Magda curled up between her sore breasts, Magda wound up in the shawl. Sometimes Stella carried Magda, but she was jealous of Magda, a thin girl of 14, too small, with thin breasts of her own. Stella wanted to be wrapped in the shawl, hidden away, asleep, rocked by the march, a baby, a round infant in arms. Magda took Rosa's nipple, and Rosa never stopped walking, a walking cradle. There was not enough milk. Sometimes Magda sucked air, then she screamed. Stella was ravenous. Her knees were tumors on sticks, her elbows chicken bones. So that gives you an idea of what to expect with her writing style. This is another good one as well. This is on the second page. Rosa, floating, dreamed of giving Magda away in one of the villages. She could leave the line for a minute and push Magda into the hands of any woman on the side of the road. But if she moved out of line, they might shoot. And even if she fled the line for half a second and pushed the shawl bundle at a stranger, would the woman take it? She might be surprised or afraid. She might drop the shawl, and Magda would fall out and strike her head and die. The little round head, such a good child, she gave up screaming and sucked now only for the taste of the drying nipple itself. The neat grip of the tiny gums, one mite of a tooth tip sticking up in the bottom gum, how shining, an elfin tombstone of white marble gleaming there. Without complaining, Magda relinquished Rosa's tears, first the left, then the right. Both were cracked, not a sniff of milk. The duct crevice extinct, a dead volcano. Blink, blind-eyed, chill hole, so Magda took the corner of the shawl and milked it instead. She sucked and sucked, flooding the threads with wetness, the shawl's good flavour, milk of linen. So that's a recurring theme throughout the opening short story. And as much as I did like Rosa, the novella Rosa, it was good and heartbreaking. The way the aftermath affected her 30 years on. I think it's that first short story, The Shawl itself, the 10-page short story depicting their march towards a concentration camp, to be an absolutely brilliant piece of writing. It truly is. It's a 5-star read, that 10-page section. Really, really is. Up there with one of the greatest short stories, as one of the greatest short stories I have ever read. So that is pretty much it. There's not much more to say about this because, as I said before, it is a 70-page book. So you can get through this in quite a short period of time. In one sitting, absolutely, you can get through this. And you know, that's the sort of writing you're expecting. So it's not small writing. It's doable. But as someone who is, you know, I'm astonished that she only has like something like less than 4,000 reviews on Goodreads for this story alone, because I just think she's a forgotten talent pretty much. And I'm not sure if Cynthia Ozick is still alive. I'm pretty sure she might be. I think she might be in her 80s by now. But she deserves more attention, at least for this book alone. It has made me want to go out and read her other stuff. David Foster Wallace recommended this to me, and now I recommend this to you. Do give it a shot, especially for that opening short story, because I do think it is a tragic piece of brilliance. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see, by all means comment below and get in touch, and I'll comment back when I can. All right, see ya, bye.